I'm Nicholas Penrake, and you're listening to A Trader's Life, the podcast where I get to talk to successful traders about their approach to trading, how they started out and went from broke or breaking even to pulling in thousands of dollars a week. Trading is a tough game. They say only around 5% of those who try actually make a profit. Join me for A Trader's Life to glean some valuable insights from the market wizards I get to talk to. Just before the close of 2020, I got together with Jimmy Mengel. Unlike most traders I get to talk to on this podcast, Jimmy has an aversion for charts and intraday trading. He prefers the long-term trade. When he's not producing copy for his outsider club, he's doing some boots-on-the-ground research in some far-flung part of the world, talking to the CEOs of undiscovered companies that look like they could be well worth recommending to his readers as a strong buy. In other words, Jimmy likes to get a sense of the people running the business he's thinking of investing in before he takes a trade. Hey, Jimmy, how's it going?
Hey, Nick, it's going great. I love the podcast. It's a privilege to be on.
Not at all. Yeah, for me as well. It's good to speak. So, Jimmy, how did you get into trading? What were the early experiences? Talk me through that.
Yeah, Nick, it was kind of funny. When I was, a little kid, I was very interested in baseball. And like a lot of kids here in the States, we collected baseball cards. So over the years, it turned out that I was very good at trading baseball cards for better baseball cards. For example, I guess it started my trading career. I traded about like 5 crappy cards for a Hall of Fame Robin Yount rookie card, which at the time was worth, $500-600. And I probably gave away about $1 in cards. So taking it from there, my father, who was working in an investment firm, was like, "Hey, you're pretty good at this, buying distressed assets kind of thing.
Yeah.
Why don't you come in and give a presentation to my investing crew about what you look for in baseball cards and how you're able to turn that into, a much larger collection." So I did that, and from there started trading stocks.
How old were you at that time when you did this presentation?
11.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, very early. Good.
I got started kind of early in that regard, and since my dad was very into investing himself, it's like, well, if you can do that with baseball cards, like you can do that with stocks. So I kind of took it from there and started buying my own stocks. I was maybe 12, 13 when I really started getting into trading itself.
Yeah. Okay. And what were you trading? What kinds of stocks? Was there any kind of sector at that time that you were more interested in, or was it just whatever's a good buy on the day sort of thing?
No, so I was a stupid little kid. So I first did was like, well, Disney seems like an obvious choice.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to these Disney movies. I think it was just, Aladdin, Lion King, like they just kept coming out, kept making, hundreds of millions of dollars. So it seemed like a no-brainer to me as a kid. So what my dad taught me was, great, that's a good long-term investment. And they told me about dividend reinvestment programs.
Okay. What is that? Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, so they're commonly known as drips. So if you have a dividend-paying stock, let's say Disney for this example, instead of collecting a check from your dividends, every quarter, you just roll it right back in to the actual stock.
Okay.
So it compounds, and all of a sudden, you're owning more and more stock instead of these like little one-time payments. So you're just setting it and forgetting it and like reinvest.
Yeah, sort of like long-term hold, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
So that the Disney stock I bought when I was like 12 has treated me quite well.
Yeah.
Actually, bought me a car in college.
Damn. Yeah. So you pretty much just held it, did you? And just taking some of the rewards from that. Is that right?
Yeah, I held it until I needed some cash for a car, and then, I still had plenty left over based on a very small investment. So yeah, it compounds over the years, and before you even look at it, uh, you have done quite well for yourself versus just taking the individual payments and spending on them on whatever. It's that compounding effect. It's the rule of 72.
The rule of 72? What's that?
Yeah. So it's just the rate in which a stock compounds, and then after a certain amount of time, you've pretty much doubled your money based on a very small investment.
Yeah. Wow. So how long did it take for you to double your money?
On Disney?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Maybe 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's shooting up again, isn't it, Disney? this
It seems to be. I don't want to get too deep on the weeds on Disney because I don't know what the heck's going on. Because obviously with COVID and theme parks, I mean they're scrambling to release movies like directly to Disney Plus.
Yeah, that's the big thing for them at the moment, isn't it? It's all the streaming that they've got into in the last couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm shocked they've been able to do so well without having the parks open. And I think they just upped the subscription rate for Disney Plus for that reason, because I don't think you're going to see people in theaters like they were for quite a while.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just one example of a long-term drip that you really you buy and just forget about it for a long time, and then you open up your portfolio and you're like, oh my gosh, I made a lot more money than I thought.
Yeah. Do you generally hold stock for long periods of time?
So there's two things I do. So I run a subscription service called the Crow's Nest that is really focused on like long-term dividend stocks like that. And I kind of, to belabor the ship and pirate metaphor, it's kind of my anchor. So I'll have dividend stocks like that, and I'm really focused on dividend aristocrats, which I'm sure you know are companies that have risen their dividend for 25 years in a row.
Yeah.
So I feel that's kind of an anchor. If the company can continue increasing its dividend for that long, they're strong, they manage cash well, and they're able to reward their shareholders. So I consider that kind of the anchor to the portfolio. And when you have that anchor, you can have a little bit of fun elsewhere. I also run a service called the Adventure Capitalist. And I guess that kind of runs into the next version of what I'm trying to do. Like, I got the anchor, I got the boat. Sometimes you just pull it up and set sail. So I go on trips all over the world looking for kind of those small, triple digit gain type companies that nobody's heard of. So I'll take a swing on some of those.
How do you find out about those companies? I mean, do you have a sort of network that lets you know about this kind of thing, or is it research? What combination of the two?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, we were talking about compounding, but as I take these trips, my network compounds too. So let me give you a quick example. My very first trip as an investment analyst was to Collectors Universe, which is in Orange County, California. And again, this ties back to the baseball card stuff. Yeah. They gave me this newsletter. I was like, okay, well, how do I start finding out about companies? Can I just go visit them? And the company I work for was just like, well, yeah, give it a shot. They were kind enough to, let me loose.
Yeah.
So I visited Collectors Universe because obviously I knew a lot about baseball cards and what they do. They have a professional sports authentication business. They have guys from Pawn Stars. They have a litany of folks that all they do is check out, autographs, that kind of thing.
You mean to see if they're legit?
Right. And they also are the premier grader of baseball cards themselves. So if you have a baseball card that's worth a lot of money, you send it to them. They send it back sealed and authenticated. That's when you can actually sell it, because otherwise, you got
it could be fake. Yeah,
kids like me ripping other kids off.
Yeah. Oh dear.
So I flew out to their Orange County facility and met with the founders of the company. So one of which is David Hall, which he runs David Hall Rare Coins. So he's one of the preeminent coin graders in the entire country. So they have that business. Actually, when I was there, I held the inverted Jenny stamp, which is worth $1 million. They had to go through Collectors Universe to, ensure that these things are worth what they're worth.
Yeah.
So did that, got to hold a Babe Ruth bat, and really got to enjoy the fact that all of these people are coming in with their collectibles, whether they be coins or cards or autographs. I was like, wow, this is a pretty interesting business. It paid a really solid dividend at the time. So I recommended that to my readers. I was like, this is a kind of an under the radar company. Like nobody's ever heard of it. But they were paying like a 6% dividend. They were expanding into China with some of their coin business. So I put out a buy alert on that. I was like, this is, I see the trends going in the right way. And it's funny, we talked today because Steve Cohen, the hedge fund manager, we've heard this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just bought the Mets, but he also just bought Collectors Universe and is taking it private now. In the meantime, when I recommended it, it was, early on. My readers are up 580% on, just a weird trip I took to look at baseball cards.
Yeah. Wow. That must give you a bit of a kick. I mean, you have that whole sort of experience, almost like a journalist, filmmaker going to find out about people's lives, and in the process, you pick up some useful information that can help yourself and also your readers. It's a cool experience. Do you do that on a regular basis still? That kind of a trip out somewhere like that?
Oh man, I can tell you about some of my trips if you want to
Yeah, let's hear them.
dig into it.
The stranger the better.
So I'll try to go quickly because there actually has been a lot of them lately.
Okay.
My most successful trip was. Are you familiar with Canopy Growth Corporation?
I don't think I am. No. Is it an American outfit? I guess.
No, it's actually Canadian. It's pretty much the largest cannabis industry in the world, or cannabis company in the world. Again, I was like, oh, I was all high off this. Oh, I went to California to look at baseball cards. What else do I know from my youth that I can turn into massive profits? And cannabis came up. I was like, okay, I'm somewhat familiar with the idea.
Yeah.
So my buddy and I drove to Smith Falls, Ontario, when Canopy Growth was called Tweed. Very little known company. What I did know was that they took a Hershey chocolate factory and turned it into a cannabis production facility.
Not so far off. Yeah, you get a hit off well. Yeah.
Obviously, my adolescent mind was piqued as well. I was like, sure, if they'll let me go to an old chocolate factory and look at a bunch of marijuana, I don't see why we shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So drove to Smith Falls, Ontario. We get into the old chocolate factory, and Bruce Linton, the CEO at the time, actually had a placard on his door that said Mr. Wonka.
Right, yeah.
He was just having fun with it, and took me through a tour of the facilities where they were growing like high quality indoor cannabis. And this is way before the cannabis boom. This is like 2014.
Yeah.
And I knew Canada was going to legalize to some degree. I figured eventually it would go that way across the world. So that was another situation where I was just totally sold. I was like, hey, cannabis is going to be a big thing. You guys should buy this.
Yeah.
Long-term trend-wise, what I didn't know was how fast it would happen. And I recommended that at like $1.60 or something like that, and it went up, 3,000%.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it has shot up. It's still going up, isn't it? Well, at least the cannabis index is going up.
Yeah, so it's just one of those strange little situations where you got to take a chance. You got to do some, what they call boots on the ground research.
Yeah.
It's not all about sitting behind your computer with a bunch of charts and that kind of thing. Like that's good too, but sometimes it's nice to get out and actually experience it.
Yeah, so I guess a part of it would be just meeting the people, looking them in the eye, and having a conversation and getting a feel of, is this for real? Are they really going places? Can they put forward a strong argument for, rolling out this kind of stock, I suppose? Um, but also, would you be looking to ask for, kind of data on what they're doing while you were out there?
Oh, absolutely. Um, Especially with some of these smaller cap stocks, what I want to know is who owns what and what kind of debt you have. And let's take the cannabis industry for an example. A lot of these companies were coming out of mining companies, like these Vancouver mining companies would all of a sudden turn into a cannabis company overnight.
Why were the mining companies turning to cannabis?
Well, they saw how well it was doing, and they're
Okay,
like,
yeah,
well, my silver miner's not doing too well. Let's flip this into a cannabis company. The most egregious example I saw was it was a Canadian company called Integrated Parking Meters, and they were just doing parking meters,
all right,
and
yeah,
they changed their name to Integrative Cannabis Solutions, and the stock went up about 300%
wow,
without any information. So that's kind of like if you look at it on paper, you're like, oh, these guys are doing well. But if you were to meet these guys and look, like you said, look them in the eye, uh,
yeah,
you have a very different interpretation of what they're doing.
okay,
So there's a lot of paper pushing, a lot of cheap paper out there. So I try to avoid that, especially with small cap stocks. Just like who is going to gain from uh, selling off a bunch of shares, and it's usually the guys that got the stocks for you know 5 cents a piece, and then they go public at 30 or 40.
yeah, 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 yeah. And so, was it just that one trip with the cannabis idea, or were there other places around Canada or the world that you went to see regards cannabis?
Oh, tons. I will. I'll try to hit on some of the more interesting ones.
Yeah,
Let me start with the first trip I made this year, right before COVID hit. I flew to Romania.
yeah. That's not the first place you'd think of as growing marijuana, is it? Somehow, I mean, yeah,
No, it's
bit chilly.
of course not. You haven't been to Romania, I presume. Like nobody I know has.
I haven't. My family have. The rest of the family, but yeah, they went skiing. So I sort of associate more with cold. I mean, I suppose in the summer it gets quite warm, but yeah,
No, it's gorgeous country. Definitely a lot of skiing.
yeah,
So I was. This is a good example. Um, in discussions with a Romanian hemp company that was producing CBD oil. Rather expensive process here in the States, certainly in Canada. But Romania is basically the hemp basket of the world, and their soil is so rich that they've been doing it for hundreds of years.
hmm,
I was like, that's a pretty interesting story. I suppose I'll fly to Romania. Uh, I visited Bran Castle, which is Dracula's castle, and
yeah,
drove across the country. Interesting stuff. But what made me go there is like, okay, well, you have labor that is much cheaper. Uh, their soil is so rich that they can grow hemp and have been doing it for a long time.
yeah, without exhausting the soil.
Yeah, so it was the perfect place to grow that. So I visited a company there, and they should start trading next month. And again, that's kind of I try to get a little bit ahead of it, just based on the trends that I see.
Yeah.
And that was worth getting on a plane. And I tell you, you party with some of these Romanians, and you'll never be quite the same.
Yeah, permanent brain ache. What from all the drink?
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
a drink called Polinka, which it seems like everyone distills in their outhouses in their backyards. But Yeah, it'll
Knock your
that'll
head off.
get you going.
Yeah. Oh wow. What is it? It's sort of kind of a vodka, the nearest
Yeah,
thing.
I would compare it to so they make a lot of it out of like pears and whatever fruit that they have.
Yeah.
But it's like fire water. It's extremely strong. And they seem to have no problem with it. I had to pretend that I was
That you could
a little bit
walk.
more macho than I was and just choke
Yeah.
it down. But you don't refuse a drink that's offered to you. It's impolite.
Yeah. No, it's part of the thing, isn't it? Yeah. Good. And what about other places that you've been to? Maybe not necessarily cannabis, but other journeys you've gone on to find out about stock and potential
In the
investment.
last 2 years, like I said, I've been to Canada. I visited Copenhagen, Denmark. And this is cannabis related, but I went to Medellin, Colombia,
Okay.
which is very well known as Pablo Escobar's
Yeah.
home. You know, very infamous cocaine
Yeah.
kingpin. But the interesting thing is this: I visited these facilities in the mountains for it was an open air drug or open air cannabis factory. Colombia is the largest exporter of flowers.
Okay.
Um, their climate is such that throughout the year you can just grow all the time. So again, kind of like the Romania thing, I was like, okay, well, if you can have less expensive outdoor greenhouses, this should be good. But that wasn't the most interesting thing. We toured Pablo Escobar's house, and it was very, very interesting. But while I was out there was several other investors doing the same thing I was.
Yeah.
So sometimes you go there for a story, and then you end up meeting people that are doing other things, and you get that sort of connection with them. So we
Yeah.
were like on a boat tour, and I ran into a capitalist investor that is now like a good friend, and he's turned me on to a bunch of other companies. So I think just putting yourself out there, like having fun with people, and having that connection, it makes you much more comfortable when you're dealing with business because, I mean, they're not jerking you around because we're kind of
Yeah.
buddies.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. So is cannabis legal in Colombia?
It is medically, yeah.
Yeah, medically. I was going to say, yeah. Mm.
And that was a new one. And when I was talking to people out there, they're very, very aware of the cocaine Colombia connection, and they kind of wanted to um, push that to the side and say, "Hey, we're not just pumping out coke for the world anymore.
Yeah.
Here's a medicine. Here is a legal plant that we can actually put our weight behind." And they have been doing that. And like I said, based on the climate and everything, it makes it a lot more affordable.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Going back a little bit to when you started trading, obviously, as you said, you started with these longer term trades. I mean, do you do any kind of sort of swing or even intraday
you know what?
trading?
I don't, um, and that's just kind of a just based on my personality. I think if I were to be doing that, I would get a little bit of analysis paralysis, where I'm just looking too closely at certain things. Um, and I also like to enjoy my life too. So
Yeah.
I have 2 kids. I have things that I want to do. I play in bands, so I don't want to spread myself too thin and then just focus in on the day trading stuff.
Yeah.
So, like I said, with the dividend aristocrats, I kind of use that as an anchor, and then we'll have fun. But I don't typically trade anything for less than 3 months or something. I like to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I suppose the risk with trading is that you become glued to a screen, don't you? And if it's not a screen of charts and it's a screen of sort of research and data and all the rest of it, and that suits some people. But interesting, you have other ambitions like music and traveling and meeting people. That sounds quite refreshing, really. Not many traders who do that.
Now it's I mean I just don't have any other option because I can't sit and look at charts all day.
Yeah.
And I've had these conversations recently with some very successful traders that do that, and they're showing me, you know, all the candlesticks, like everything you need to know. But I don't know, just functionally for my life, I like set it and forget it stuff, and then fun stuff. That's pretty much where I'm at.
Yeah, good. And so what kind of, music do you play? And are you a guitarist or saxophone, or what do you do?
Oh, yeah, I play guitar, I play bass.
Okay. Yeah, and what sort of like a rock band or jazz or
So maybe this will be interesting to people. I'm not sure. We currently have a band called Mr. Seaweed, um, and we play kind of like psychedelic surf rock, but with we all wear Creature of the Black Lagoon masks.
Oh, wow. Sounds like you should be in a movie or something.
So it's pretty
Well, maybe
cool.
I'll come over and film you guys, you know?
Happy
That'll be my trip.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to send you some tracks, but yeah,
Yeah.
so essentially, we thought it was a good idea. It's all instrumental, so we're like, people are really bored by instrumental music, so we'll put these masks on and be Mr. Seaweed.
It livens things up a bit, does it?
Yeah, people love it.
It's a shame you can't get out there and do it really, because, I suppose you can do it in a I don't know, someone's garden or garage or something and film it, and that way you get out there, but, yeah, no gigs at the moment, are there? Or I assume they're not
No,
round your way?
definitely no gigs. But it was the
No.
funny part is like, oh, we just did it as a gag, and then all of a sudden, people are like, oh, you're the guys with the Creature of the Black Lagoon masks. But I can't tell you how hard it is to play guitar or do a solo when you're wearing a mask like that. It's a absolute disaster. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
kind of painted ourselves into a corner.
It's like wearing PPE or something while you're playing in a band. You know, it must be pretty hot and stuffy.
Yeah, we were joking about that. It was just like, oh, you guys are worried about wearing your masks? Like we've been wearing masks for years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what are your plans for the next few months, you know, going into the next year? Any trips lined up or
Yeah, there's actually a few interesting ones. And again, it's tough because I have a family. I don't want to expose myself more than I need to.
yeah,
But
you mean to this COVID-19?
yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, vaccines are coming out. That's all well and good. I do have two big trips planned for January and March. Um, One is for a biotech company, uh, and it's going to be in Miami,
Okay.
which will be nice. It's nice and warm down there.
Yeah.
I'm willing to take that risk. The other one, which I can't talk much about, but it's going to Brazil.
Okay. That's a bit of a mess at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure that out. But that's another sector I'm very interested in. It's an esports company. So like during the pandemic, we've seen online gambling and video games and esports go absolutely through the roof
Yeah.
for obvious reasons.
DraftKings, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
Yeah. And they haven't, I heard they haven't even made any money yet in terms of dividends and so on, have they?
Now, I mean, they're still working their way up, but
Yeah.
it
Mm.
didn't stop the Robinhood traders from buying them. It's like
Yeah.
the perfect
Yeah.
marriage of, which I think is another interesting concept. Is everyone's stuck at home with their phones, and you have all these young traders on Robinhood, uh, becoming day traders overnight.
Yeah.
And it's driving up the cost of certain stocks like ridiculously. You've seen it with some of the electric vehicle stocks, and
Yeah. EV batteries and all that lot. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
I'm not sure that's
Yeah.
healthy, but I know it's a trend, so I'm going to follow that trend.
Yeah. Yeah. What sort of science is the biotech company working on?
The CEO of the company came from another biotech company that did quite well. Um, so they're working on like certain immunotherapies and cancer treatments. Again, I really can't say too much because,
Yeah,
but
it's fairly confidential at the moment. Yeah.
but again, it's worth it for me to go to the Versace mansion where um, he was murdered, and then learn more about this particular company. It's just another adventure. I'm just going to keep adventuring.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, no, it's always good to combine the two, isn't it? You know, sort of holiday and work. It's sort of, you've got a definite purpose for being there, and yet you've got time to explore.
You work hard, you play hard, Nick.
Yep. Sounds good. Yeah.
Even before the COVID situation, I have been wildly impressed at how resilient the market continues to do. Um, I don't want to get too deep into politics about it, but I think the market actually feels now that they have a little bit more confidence in what's going to happen. Say with at least here in the states with a Joe Biden administration. Um, I, I think with Trump, like all things, very very volatile.
Yeah, extremely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sort of fit his personality, you know.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah.
obviously the market kept doing great. I'm shocked to see these new highs,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like I know that there's a seamy underbelly when you have this many people unemployed. I've talked to restaurant workers and owners. You have the entire service industry completely unaware of what's going to happen. A lot of these jobs you won't get back.
Yeah.
So I think there is definitely still some simmering underneath that is going to need reconciling at some point.
Does that make you want to hedge, you know, when it comes to investing? Do you have a sort of sense of trying to, you know, line your portfolio with a defensive strategy, if you like, you know, go for that? Do you take that on board? Just in case, you know, that kind of, it might just suddenly get very bearish.
So personally, what I'm doing myself, and for my readers, I'm going back to a lot of those companies that are a little bit recession proof. Um, I can give you a good example if you like.
Yeah.
So, like I was telling you before, I think drips are important in a long enough timeline. Most of them weather these things. You don't want to look at it every day because sometimes you're going to be looking at something ugly.
Yeah. Yeah, even with the big ones, yeah. So what sort of typical names, you know, for my listeners?
So one of the companies that, again, I don't think most people know, uh, Essential Utilities, which is WTRG.
Yeah.
They used to be called Aqua America, but yeah, in the states here, pretty much around where I live, they control the water utilities in Pennsylvania and a couple of the other surrounding countries. First thing you do when you run out of money, you pay your water bill, you pay your electric bill. Um, I think utilities are kind of a no-brainer. A lot of them have really great dividends. What I like about essential utilities is if you're setting up a drip, they'll actually give you a 5% discount for all of the stock you buy, like if you buy it through them.
Okay. I hadn't even heard of that. All I know is the sort of broker and trading platform. So you go direct to the company, do you?
You do.
Do it
You
that
buy
way?
it straight from
Yeah.
them. You set up a drip, and yeah, it's kind of a an open secret with investing. I'm just like, well, if someone's going to give you 5% to buy the stock, then you're already in pretty good position. Um,
Yeah.
well, another company that does that is Nucor Steel, which has done pretty well recently. Um, Same thing, 5% discount if you go to their website and just buy the drip instead of just buying it through your broker. I'm also I have been bullish on basic stuff like Home Depot and Sherwin Williams, Lowe's. Here in the States, they have definitely been outperforming each and every quarter because people have time on their hands. They're doing home improvement projects. The housing market's
Yeah.
doing great. So all of those companies, also dividend aristocrats, I don't see them going anywhere. So
Okay.
regardless of what happens in the market, if it's a long-term trade, like I trust dividend aristocrats that provide you with um, that kind of comfort.
So even if we sort of get back to something resembling normal, where people have less time to do DIY and so on, do you think a stock like Home Depot will still be flying up, or will it go sideways a bit for a bit? Do you think?
Well, it may go sideways, but that doesn't bother me. I know it's not going to tank. So that's what it's more of the long term thing. Like I don't day trade Home Depot, it's that's just something you put in your portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if things
Yeah. Yeah.
do better, uh, you will still have people. You'll still have people building houses. You'll still have people doing home renovations. What I look for in the long term trades is something that is going to just at least stay stable. I'm not, you know, doing a bunch of biotech tech stocks that could go this way or the other. I like things I
Yeah.
can understand. I like things that I use. I go to Home Depot. Like I said before, like I traded baseball cards. I know the cannabis industry. I like to do things that I understand and don't like to wade too much into, you know, uh, overt speculation.
Yeah. With cannabis, do you pick a company that you're particularly impressed by in terms of performance, or do you perhaps spread that with an ETF, or how do you normally invest with this kind of stock?
Yeah, so with cannabis, that's like part of my fund money, and it's been extremely valuable for me. What I look for right now, since we're talking about the election, I see most of the United States moving towards legalization and a federal deregulation of cannabis as a Schedule One drug, which which puts it on the same level as cocaine or heroin. Um,
Right.
I know that's going to change. It's already in process. So I'm looking at U.S. multi-state operators. Um, Curaleaf and Cresco Labs are good examples of that. They are able to operate in the U.S. and they already have their pins in the ground for states that will be coming online and legalizing that. The Canadian markets kind of scared me after the 2019 crash of cannabis stocks.
Oh, yeah. What do you think triggered that?
Well, I think it was a lot of people. A lot of the financing was completely, cheap, and it gave them a lot of money to do whatever they wanted. So you have these companies that were building massive
Yeah.
facilities for all of this inventory that nobody was buying because, for example, Health Canada really regulated like what you could sell. Um, so I
Yeah.
think that was part of the problem. We have all of this space cost a lot of money to build a warehouse
Yeah.
and a grow room, and then all of a sudden you have all this, weed for lack of a better term that they can't sell them to anybody. So it's just sitting on inventory
Yeah. It's not gonna last too well.
and
Yeah.
super amounts of debt. So with cannabis
Mm.
companies, very low debt, very targeted approach to where they're operating, um, and just some common sense as to what they can actually sell.
Yeah. Well, what's an average day for you like? I mean, are you, writing newsletters and so on? You have these trips, they're like a month here and there. Um, when you're at home, what's your sort of typical day? Because you're not in front of a screen looking at charts. So I just wondered, how it all sort of pans out during the week.
Let's get a little personal, Nick. Um,
Oh, okay.
if you must know, no. So I wake up with my kids. I have a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. We're doing virtual learning,
Okay, yeah.
and without sounding too like hippy dippy, now we'll wake up and we'll do like a yoga session. Just everyone get together,
That's cool.
breathe, stretch a little bit, and get ready for the day.
Yeah.
Feed them
Yeah.
breakfast, have a cup of coffee with my wife, and then start. I have a list of companies that I always follow, so I usually start the day by going through and seeing if there's any interesting news or stock movements, at least based on the companies that I typically cover.
Yeah.
And then I try
Yeah.
to shut that all off and then start writing. I like to turn everything off and write.
Yeah. And how many articles or newsletters will you write in a week as an average?
Oh, I so we also do Outsider Club, which is kind of our uh, free free newsletter. So I'll do
Yeah.
an Outsider Club editorial a week. I'll do an update for Crow's Nest, which is more the dividend investing kind of thing, and then I'll do a update for Adventure Capitalist, which is typically a call that I've had during the week and kind of a interpolation of the interview I had with some company that nobody's ever heard of. And we also do, which I think is fun. I'm not sure if you messed around too much with you know video blogging or video podcasts. We started a video podcast called Trend Tracker. So each week we do that. Me and my colleague Jason Simpkins, who is more on the gold and defense and different skill set than me.
Yeah.
So we'll record one of those videos, and I found that being pretty important because we're often arguing. We're just like, all right, you're a gold guy, you're a defense guy. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
dividend guy, I'm a cannabis guy. And it's amazing what you come up with when you actually, sit for almost an hour and talk to somebody. So
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
typical
So
week.
you just record those conversations and put it on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah.
You've got a channel. Yeah. What's your channel?
So it's a paid product actually. So
Oh, it's a paid one. Yeah.
and
Okay. So only
And the
subscribers.
cool
Yeah.
part is we do a monthly Q&A with subscribers, so it's a live Q&A when people can hold our feet to the fire and tell us
Okay.
what we've
Yeah.
done right or done wrong, but we have to stand there in front of a camera and actually answer it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Does that mean you're nervous when you have to do it?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
If it's been a
Fair
bad
enough.
week and
Yeah.
I've recommended something
Yeah.
poorly, which never
Yeah. I think,
happens.
oh, damn. Yeah. Oh, dear. Yeah. And am I right in thinking you also write occasionally for Angel Publishing?
Yeah, so Angel Publishing is the parent company of Outsider Club. So we're all part of the
Okay.
same
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. They're very much into sort of the biotech and tech side of things,
Yeah.
aren't they? Generally.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we all have like I was saying, we all have our different expertise, but now it's a lovely little situation here where every editor has got their own opinion. And before COVID, when would get together and do a little happy hour, I mean, you have like 5 different opinions like converging, and I think that's important. Certainly, investing to learn from everyone's different approaches to it. That's why I like this podcast too. Like everyone's got a very different approach to how they are able to do this because it isn't easy. You can't just show up and start
No.
making a bunch of
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. No. No. That's
So
just bullshit. Yeah.
totally,
Yeah.
and I think it's
Yeah.
way more like it's the I guess Abraham Lincoln had the school of rivals or a group of rivals that uh, you don't want everyone agreeing with you. It's much better if you have a conversation and talk it out, and everyone comes away with another tool for their belt.
Yeah. Yeah. You learn something after all. Yeah. And so, and sometimes I think what's interesting is, like, you're talking about you prefer to do these little longer trades and it fits your personality. And I think in many ways that is so important with the trading that, you get in there and you think, oh, well, people say do Forex or you do, options or whatever it might be. And right at the beginning, you have a go at this and you have a go at that. And in many ways, it's about finding what suits you. But both in terms of your kind of emotional response to the trading, but also your lifestyle, and how much time you want to be in front of the screen, how much research you want to do, and so on. And I think, only by listening to all kinds of traders do you start to realize actually it's totally okay to hate forex and just prefer stocks, or vice versa. It's about finding what you're comfortable with, because after all, if you're uncomfortable, you're probably going to make a mess of it anyway, and you're certainly not going to enjoy it.
No,
So,
I think you totally nailed it there, Nick. And I only know how to do this one way. I could certainly learn more things, but we all have just so much bandwidth in our brain to be able to focus on things. And I think it's good. Like when I talk to the technical chart traders and stuff, I'm like, holy shit! I cannot believe you saw that in this chart. Like that's amazing.
yeah,
I'm never going to do that, but
yeah.
I appreciate your insight, and I'll try to learn from it. But yeah, it's the same thing with buy and hold investors, and it can be boring, but
But sometimes they're the ones that come out laughing because they bought Amazon early on or whatever it might have been, and they held, and and Netflix through all the ups and downs, and they're laughing now.
yeah, all these other guys are spinning their wheels trying to do like these day trades with tech companies. They're just like, you could have just bought Netflix.
Yeah, yeah,
It was obviously going to be a good idea. And I
yeah,
haven't even I bought Netflix years ago. As soon as they launched the streaming services, like, oh yeah, this is huge.
yeah,
But I don't want to worry about it. Like I have other things to do as well. I'm not employed to be a day trader. Like I
yeah,
want to be able to have some time with my life and my family, and
yeah,
if
yeah,
I can at least set that up and like half forget about it. Like I check in on all this stuff, obviously professionally, but I'd rather not do it every 30 minutes.
yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. Well, Jimmy, that was great talking with you. I think we should wrap up at this point. Yeah, hope you carry on doing what you're doing with no more setbacks with COVID, and so you can get out there and travel
Well, I appreciate it,
to
Nick. It
places
was
like Brazil.
obviously my pleasure. And you're in London?
Yeah, and you're in Baltimore. Is that home, or is it just temporary for now?
No, it's home. I live in a nice country house, actually owned by Napoleon's nephew.
Oh, really? Wow.
It's
Okay.
a story for another time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you are
Definitely.
ever in the
Yeah.
area, you're more than welcome to stay. Likewise, if I make it out to London for some weird adventure, I'd love to
Look
stop
me
by.
up. Yeah. Absolutely. Good. All right, Jimmy. Thanks
All
a
right,
lot.
man. Thanks for the time.
If you're curious to find out more about Jimmy's publication, Outsider Club, he's one of the editors there, go to outsiderclub.com. I'm Nicholas Penrake. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for listening to The Trader's Life.